I had actually seen a few people discussing this band in the comments section of my Mazzy Star video that I put out about a month ago. The link to that video is down below. Both Mazzy Star and the Sundays shared some similarities as they were both fronted by women, and the attention of the band mostly rested on the vocalist and the guitarist. They also took long hiatuses and were known for being press shy. Today, let's explore whatever happened to the British group the Sundays. The Sundays enjoyed modest success in both the UK and America, but after only 3 albums, they seemed to vanish. While they were prominent during the early to mid-90s, their origins dated back to the 80s, when vocalist Harriet Wheeler and guitarist David Gavurin met and started dating at Bristol University. Gaverin would be messing around with his guitar and would tell the New York Times, and I quote, "I started mucking about with music, then we bought a drum machine, a bass guitar, and a 4-track recorder, and began writing songs for a band, even though there were only the 2 of us." He would ask his girlfriend Wheeler to sing on the tracks he was working on, and by either 1987 or 88, they soon moved to London, where they enlisted bassist Paul Brindley and drummer Patrick Hannon. They would call themselves the Sundays. Gaverin would reveal the origin of the band's name, telling a 1990 Boston College independent student newspaper named The Heights, "We liked the sound and feel of it, and because it wasn't a name that was bigger than the music." Gaverin would cite the Cocteau Twins, Joni Mitchell, John Martin, and the Indian folk singer Najma as the band's influences. In the same interview, he reflected on the band's lyrics, calling them, and I quote, "impressionistic," and going on to say, "The mood of the music determines the diction of the lyrics. We don't tell structured stories or have specific matter that can be unlocked with a magic key. Our lyrics are more of a jumble of personal impressions. In the confusion, important feelings get mixed up with completely meaningless garbage." Gaverin and Wheeler would write most of the band's songs, and their writing style was quite different from their conventional, straightforward musical style, with Gaverin revealing to the Morning Call newspaper, "The way we write is I'll put down a lyric and Harriet will write the next line. I admit it's kind of weird since I don't know how many other writers work that way, but it works for us. We like that a person can be writing a song one way and the other person can take it in a completely different tangent. Actually, it's the only way we know how to write," he'd say. It was during their time in London that they cut their first demo tapes, and Gaverin would tell the student newspaper The Heights, "Harriet and I made all these tapes and sent them everywhere, and only one guy listened." The quartet played their first show only 8 weeks after assembling in August of 1988, opening for the group Caretaker Race. At that gig, the Sundays were one of 3 openers that night, and in the audience were 3 members of the British press who were there to review the headliner. Instead, they were mesmerized by the Sundays' performance. The following day, their first gig received positive reviews in several music publications, and for the band's second show, a number of people from major record labels showed up. Gaverin would tell the LA Times in 1990, "We'd done no gigs, contacted no one, sent out no tapes, and suddenly we had record companies courting us and 4 firm offers." Wheeler would add, "It was very exciting as well as quite stupid. A few weeks of not sleeping a lot because there was so much to think about." The Sundays would opt to sign with indie label Rough Trade, which was home to the Smiths. The band's import-only copy of the single Can't Be Sure, which came out about a year before their debut album, would soon receive rave reviews. The British press would fawn over the band, with Enemy magazine putting Wheeler and Gaverin on the front cover of their first issue of the new decade, calling 1990, and I quote, "the year of the Sundays." Other publications like Melody Maker soon followed, declaring they discovered the band a year earlier. The Sundays would spend 1989 writing their debut album, Reading, Writing, and Arithmetic, with Geffen Records distributing the album across the pond in America. Released in January of 1990, their debut album moved up the alternative and college rock charts in the States. The album's success was spurred by the singles Here's Where the Story Ends, which topped the alternative rock charts, and their first single they released, Can't Be Sure. MTV picked up on the band, with them appearing on the program 120 Minutes. At the same time, though, the Sundays seemed to view fame through a lens of suspicion, with Gaverin revealing to the Heights newspaper, "I have a real fear of what that kind of success does to the music. Fame would be more of a hassle than anything else. We don't want to become a big commercial pop band. We're not elitist, and sure, we'd like to be heard by lots of people, but not by being a sellout pop band. We spent ages telling Geffen to push the record in the alternative and college markets, really emphasizing that, when they wanted to release a lot of singles to MTV and chart radio. Then after the record did really well in those markets, it turned out that chart radio wouldn't take a risk on us," he'd say. A few years after the group's debut album was released, their label Rough Trade Records declared bankruptcy. The group would be rescued by Parlophone Records in the UK, while Geffen would still distribute them stateside. In 1993, they would release their sophomore record, Blind, which featured more polish and layers than their stripped-down debut. Geffen had high hopes for the album, throwing a lot of money behind their tour and promotion. Gaverin would tell the Morning Call in 1993, "It seemed like even more people are into the band this time around. We're playing places that are about twice the size from last time. We play to about 1,000 people. Feels like we're making progress." The paper would also cite Hollywood actress Winona Ryder as one of the band's high-profile fans. The album would feature a cover of the Rolling Stones song Wild Horses, with Gaverin telling the Morning Call, "The last time we were in America, we bought the Stones' Sticky Fingers album. We obviously knew the song, but after mucking around with it, we decided to play it, and we thought it sounded good." Some critics, though, according to the Chicago Tribune, criticized the band for recycling melodies from their first record, but that didn't matter, as the album would go gold. In 1995, Gaverin and Wheeler would have their first child, and they went on a hiatus. Some thought the band was done, but Gaverin recalled to MTV in 1997, "I don't mean to say that we're not ambitious. We're happy with how many records we've sold. We'd like to reach more people, but not at the cost of who we are." The group would return in 1997 with their third and final album, Static and Silence, and since it had been almost half a decade since their last release, there was a seismic shift in the music scene. While the album was the highest charting of the group's career, it didn't even go gold. After Static and Silence, the couple had their second child and went on a much longer hiatus, probably spending their time raising their children. It resulted in some fans digging deep, maybe a little too deep, to see what the band members were up to. In 2014, American Airlines in-flight magazine American Way featured an email interview with Wheeler and Gaverin, where they revealed they had in fact been working on new music, revealing, "The contentious bit, unfortunately, is the reunion gig. First, let's see if the music we're currently writing ever sees the light of day, and then we can get on the enjoyable globe-trotting meets concert planning stage." In the same interview, the pair hinted that if they ever played live shows again, they'd like to play locales they've never visited, including Aruba, Fiji, and the Galapagos, rather than returning to places they've already performed. During their hiatus, the pair had been press shy, but American Airlines scored the exclusive because interviewer Adam Pitlock was a huge fan of the band and put in a request through bandmate Paul Brindley, who has since become an entrepreneur. He is the CEO of Music Ally, who according to Pitchfork is, and I quote, "a London-based company that explores and implements ways in which music and technology can co-evolve." Brindley passed on his request to the press shy couple, who surprisingly agreed to do the interview. To promote the feature in their in-flight magazine, American Airlines put the Sunday songs on their in-flight playlist for that month. Then as recently as 2019, there was a fascinating piece written by David Obachowski on longreads.com, who chronicled his journey to interview a member of the band. He would be declined by the band members to do an interview, and it culminated with him getting the address of Wheeler and Gaverin and almost going to their house unannounced and ringing their doorbell. He would ultimately decide against doing it. Patrick Hannon, meanwhile, was the only remaining member who seemed to play music in the public eye, playing drums in the band The Audience, and becoming a session musician, as well as producing. As recently as last year, Hannon gave an interview to provide an update on where the Sundays are at with new music, saying that Harriet and David had, and I quote, "never stopped making music," and that there are a number of tracks that he has drummed on, but he cautioned fans that these recordings may still never see the light of day. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe. We'll see you again on Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.